Jake had always been a man of routine. He worked hard as a mechanic at the space station, repairing ships and machines that kept the colony running. His life on the remote outpost, far from the crowded cities of Earth, was quiet and peaceful. He liked it that way. Most of the time he was alone. The station was built on a small moon, orbiting a gas giant in a distant star system. It was the perfect place for someone like Jake. There was little traffic, no rush, and the days passed in a slow, predictable rhythm. The work was tiring, but it was honest, and it kept him busy. That night, after a long day of fixing a malfunctioning reactor, Jake was exhausted. His body ached and his mind was foggy from the stress. He had finished his last job for the day and decided to call it quits. He needed rest. His quarters were small but comfortable enough for the life he had chosen. It wasn't much, but it was home. Jake stripped off his work clothes, leaving them in a pile on the floor. He didn't care about the mess. He climbed into the bed, letting his tired body sink into the soft mattress. The room was dimly lit by the faint glow of the station's artificial lights. Outside the window, the gas giant loomed large in the distance, its swirling clouds casting an eerie, ever-changing light on the station's walls. As he closed his eyes, the sounds of the station faded away. The hum of the engines, the occasional clank of machinery, everything seemed distant, almost unreal. It was just him now, alone in the quiet. He drifted off to sleep, his mind settling into a peaceful haze. But that peace was short-lived. Jake awoke with a sudden start. His heart raced, and his body was covered in sweat. It took him a few moments to realize where he was. His eyes adjusted to the dim light, and he could see the outline of the room around him. Everything was as it should be. The station, his bed, the quiet hum of the station's systems in the background. But there was something wrong. Something was different. Jake's eyes widened as he noticed a figure sitting at the foot of his bed. He froze. A cold shiver ran down his spine. The figure was unlike anything he had ever seen before. It was a woman, or at least, it looked like a woman. She was tall, easily a head taller than him, with striking features that seemed almost too perfect to be real. Her skin was pale, almost luminescent, and her long hair flowed like liquid silver, shimmering in the soft light. Her eyes, those eyes were a deep violet hue, glowing faintly in the dark. Jake blinked, unsure if he was seeing things. He rubbed his eyes and looked again, but the figure was still there. She sat perfectly still, staring at him with a calm intensity that made his heart race even faster. Who are you?" Jake stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. His mind struggled to make sense of what was happening. Was this a dream? Had he somehow slipped into some kind of hallucination? The woman didn't speak. Instead, she leaned forward, her eyes never leaving his. She moved with an eerie grace, her movements smooth and fluid. Jake's breath caught in his throat as she reached out toward him, her hand hovering just above his chest. In that moment, everything felt strange. The air seemed thicker, heavier, as if the room had shifted, pulling them into another world. Jake's mind raced, trying to find a way out, but his body refused to move. He was frozen, unable to escape the surreal scene unfolding before him. The woman's hand gently touched his chest, and a shock ran through his body. It wasn't painful, but it was powerful. Jake could feel an energy, something unlike anything he had ever experienced before, coursing through him. It was as if the very air around him was alive, pulsing with some unknown force. For a moment, they simply stared at one another. Jake's mind struggled to comprehend what was happening. Who was this woman? What did she want with him? And then, without warning, she spoke. Not with her voice, but with her mind. "I mean you no harm." The voice echoed in his head, soft yet firm. "I am Lyra. I have come for you." Jake's heart pounded in his chest as her words filled his mind. He blinked, trying to process the meaning of her words. He opened his mouth to speak, but no sound came out. He couldn't form a response. Lyra continued, her voice now clearer in his mind. I have watched you. You are different from the others. I need you. Jake's mind spun. What do you mean you need me? He thought, his confusion clear. His words weren't spoken aloud, but somehow he knew she could hear them. Lyra's gaze softened slightly, though her expression remained unreadable. You are human. You are resilient, adaptable. I have been sent to study your kind, but I did not expect to find what I have. You are special. Jake shook his head, still in disbelief. Why me? He thought, trying to make sense of it. All. What do you want with me? Her eyes never left his, and for a moment, the silence between them felt heavy, like the weight of the universe itself was pressing down on them. Then, she answered. I do not know yet, but I must learn. You will help me understand. The words resonated deeply within him, and Jake felt a strange pull, a connection that he couldn't explain. It was as if a part of him, something deep within his soul, was calling to her, responding to her in a way that made no logical sense. Before he could process her words any further, Lyra's body shifted, moving closer to him. She hovered just above him, her presence overwhelming yet oddly calming. Jake's mind raced, his thoughts scattered. Who was this woman? Where did she come from? And why was she here, in his quarters, in the middle of the night? As he tried to steady his breathing, he realized that he was no longer frightened. There was an unexplainable calm in her presence. She wasn't like the hostile aliens he had read about in the old histories. She wasn't here to invade or destroy. Instead, she was here to learn, to understand. And in that moment, Jake understood that he was part of something far bigger than he could ever have imagined. Lyra's violet eyes locked onto his once more. We are not so different, you and I, she said in his mind, her voice gentle but filled with conviction. I will help you understand, but first you must trust me. Jake was silent for a long moment, still trying to absorb the surreal events that were unfolding before him. He didn't know what to say, what to do. But in that moment, one thing was certain. His life had just changed forever. Jake couldn't believe what was happening. One moment he had been lying peacefully in his bed, ready to rest after a long day, and now he was wide awake, facing an alien who seemed to appear out of nowhere. Her name was Lyra, and everything about her was impossible. Her pale, almost glowing skin, her flowing silver hair, and those violet eyes that seemed to see right through him. Nothing about her made sense. Despite the shock coursing through him, Jake couldn't deny the strange calm he felt in her presence. It wasn't fear, but a sense of curiosity and confusion. His heart was still pounding, but his body no longer felt tense. It was as if Lyra's presence had a way of soothing his nerves, making him feel both alarmed and oddly at peace at the same time. She sat there watching him, her gaze steady and unblinking. Her words echoed in his mind, still fresh. I have watched you. You are different from the others. I need you. Jake's mind was a whirlwind of questions. Who was she? Why was she here? What did she mean by I need you? He sat up slowly, still not entirely sure if this was real. He wanted to reach for his communicator, but his hands felt frozen as though they were glued to the bed. Instead, he tried to speak, though his voice faltered. What do you want with me? He asked, his voice trembling slightly. Lyra tilted her head slightly as if considering the best way to explain. Her gaze never wavered from him. You are human, she began, but there is something unique about you. I have studied many of your kind, but you... She paused as if choosing her words carefully. You are different, more resilient, more adaptable. I believe you can help me understand. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Help you understand. What? Her expression softened, but there was a quiet intensity in her eyes. Everything, your species, your way of thinking, your emotions, your survival instincts, all of it. I need to understand how you live, how you fight, how you love. I need to understand what makes you human. Jake's confusion deepened. I don't get it. You've been watching us? All this time? He looked around his quarters, still struggling to process what was happening. Why now? Why me? Lyra leaned closer, her face so close that Jake could see the details of her flawless features. He could feel the warmth of her presence, though her skin was cool to the touch. Because, she said softly, I have not found another like you. Your kind has been spread across the stars, but you are the first one who has caught my attention. Jake's mind raced. Was this some kind of elaborate joke? He didn't feel like he was anything special. He was just a mechanic, a simple worker on a quiet station. Nothing about him screamed important. But the more he looked at her, the more he felt that she was sincere. She wasn't here to harm him. He could sense that much. There was something deep within her, some unspoken truth that made him believe her. She wasn't like the invaders or the warlike species he'd heard about in stories. She wasn't here to conquer, to destroy, or even to use him for some sinister purpose. She was just curious. Jake felt a strange sense of connection to her. It wasn't love or desire, at least not yet. It was something else. A pull, an unexplainable bond that seemed to tie them together in a way he couldn't explain. You still haven't answered me, Jake said, his voice steadier now. Why me? Why not someone else? Lyra seemed to consider this question for a moment. I could have chosen anyone, she replied softly. But it was you who caught my attention. You who didn't run, didn't hide. You who were unafraid when the others might have been. I need to understand why. Jake frowned, feeling an odd sense of pride. He hadn't done anything special. He had just been doing his job. But there was no denying that something was happening between them. Something that felt much larger than either of them. Are you like us? Jake asked. I mean, are you human? Or are you something else? Lyra's eyes darkened for a moment, and for the first time she seemed almost sad. No, I am not human. I am a part of a species that has existed for millennia, far older than your kind. We have observed countless civilizations across the universe, and yet, we still don't fully understand the humans we've encountered. There is something about you that is unpredictable. Your emotions, your capacity for survival, your ability to adapt to any situation. She paused, looking away briefly before meeting his gaze once more. I don't understand it. I don't understand you? Jake felt a mix of awe and disbelief. So, you've been studying us for all this time? Just watching us from afar? Yes, she replied. But I've never met anyone like you before. You are different. Jake wasn't sure what to say to that. How was he different from anyone else? He was just a man, a regular guy doing his job, living his life. He wasn't special. Or was he? As if sensing his doubt, Lyra continued. There is something inside you, Jake. Something I need to understand. I have seen your kind survive when others would have perished. I have seen you push through pain and loss and emerge stronger. I have seen how you fight for what is yours, how you protect what you love. Her voice was low, almost reverent. I don't know why, but I feel that you are the key to understanding everything. Jake felt a sudden weight on his shoulders. He wasn't sure what kind of key she thought he was, but he felt a strange sense of responsibility. Lyra had come here for something, and whatever it was, it had to be important. But he still couldn't wrap his head around the fact that this alien woman had appeared in his room in the middle of the night and was now asking him for help. He took a deep breath. I still don't understand, but I'm listening. What do you want me to do? Lyra's eyes seemed to light up, and, for the first time, a genuine smile flickered across her face. I want you to help me learn. I want you to teach me about humanity, about your strengths, your weaknesses, your hopes, your fears. She leaned in slightly, her voice dropping to a whisper. I want to understand how you love Jake. I want to understand why you do the things you do. What makes you human? The room seemed to grow warmer as Jake processed her words. It was a lot to take in, but somehow he felt that this was only the beginning of something much bigger than himself. He was about to be part of something far greater than anything he could have imagined. He didn't know how this would unfold, what challenges lay ahead, or even what kind of danger he might face. But one thing was certain. His life had just changed. And whatever this strange connection with Lyra was, he was going to have to find a way to understand it. Jake's mind was racing. Lyra, the mysterious alien woman who had appeared in his quarters, was now standing in front of him, asking him to help her understand humanity. She wasn't threatening, wasn't hostile. She was just curious. And yet the weight of her request felt heavy. What did she mean by understanding humanity? Was she asking him to teach her everything about Earth and its people? Or was there something deeper to her question that he wasn't seeing? Lyra had been clear. She needed him to teach her about humans. She wanted to understand their emotions, their way of life, their survival instincts. She wanted to learn how humans loved, how they fought, how they adapted to challenges. But Jake wasn't sure how much he could help. He was just an ordinary man. Nothing special. He had no grand knowledge of the universe, no deep wisdom. He was simply a mechanic who liked fixing things and keeping the station running. So why was she so interested in him? Lyra, Jake began, his voice steady but tinged with uncertainty. I don't know how much I can teach you. I'm just a mechanic. I don't know anything about emotions or survival or anything like that. I just do my job day after day. I'm not the person you should be asking. Lyra listened patiently, her violet eyes fixed on him. You underestimate yourself, Jake, she said softly. It's not just about knowledge. It's about your experiences, your emotions, your ability to adapt. You've lived your life, faced challenges, survived. That makes you more than just a mechanic. Jake frowned, still not fully understanding. I don't get it. What makes me special? I've just been doing what everyone else does. I work, I rest, I do what's needed. There's nothing unique about me. Lyra stepped closer, her presence filling the room. You think your life is ordinary, she said, her voice, gentle but firm. But it's not. The way you navigate the world, the way you cope with challenges, the way you care for the people around you, those things matter. They make you human. Jake swallowed, feeling a strange mix of emotions. On the one hand, he didn't think he was anything special. He had never considered himself a hero or a leader. But on the other hand, Lyra's words had a certain weight to them, a truth that he couldn't ignore. I've been watching you, she continued, her eyes never leaving his. I've seen how you've dealt with the hardships of life on this station. I've seen how you care for those around you even when it's not easy. You may think that you are just another worker, but you are more than that. You have the resilience and strength that I seek. Jake wasn't sure how to respond. His mind was still reeling from the fact that an alien woman was standing in front of him, telling him that he was special in ways he didn't fully understand. He had never seen himself as anything but ordinary, but here she was, looking at him with a sense of wonder and reverence that felt completely foreign. Why me? He asked again, the question escaping his lips without thought. Why not someone else? Why am I the one who gets to help you understand humanity? Lyra hesitated, her gaze softening. I don't know why, Jake. But something about you. I can't explain it. You are different. Your mind, your heart. They're open in ways I've never seen before. You are willing to trust, to listen, to understand. She paused for a moment as if choosing her words carefully. You are more than just a mechanic. You are a human being, and I need to learn about that. Jake felt a strange warmth in his chest. She was right about one thing. He had always been open, willing to listen and understand others. He didn't see people as problems to be fixed. He saw them as individuals, each with their own struggles and strengths. But that didn't make him anything special. That was just the way he had been raised. Okay, Jake said slowly, the decision settling in his mind. I'll help you. I'll do what I can to show you what it means to be human, but I still don't understand why me. Why now? Lyra's eyes darkened slightly, and for a moment, Jake thought he saw a hint of sadness in her expression. Because I have been watching humanity for a long time, Jake. My people have observed your kind from afar, studying your ways, your history. We've seen how you fight wars, how you survive against impossible odds. But there is something we don't understand. The emotional side of you. The way you love, the way you connect with one another. Jake felt his chest tighten. You mean you've been watching us fight, watching us hurt each other? Lyra nodded, her expression serious. Yes, we've seen the violence, the wars, the destruction. But we've also seen the beauty. The way you love each other, the way you care for your families, your friends. We've seen how you fight not just for survival, but for what you believe in. And we want to understand that. We want to know what makes you different from the other species we've encountered. Jake's mind raced. He had never thought about it like that before. He had always seen humanity's wars and struggles as part of the cost of survival. But to Lyra, it seemed like something more. It was something worth studying, something worth understanding. So you want to know why we love? Jake asked, the question coming out before he could stop it. Lyra nodded. Yes. Love is one of the most powerful forces in the universe, Jake. It binds you together, it makes you stronger, it makes you fight for each other. But it also causes pain. And pain is something my people have never fully understood. We have emotions, yes, but they are not as strong or as complex as yours. You experience love and loss, joy and sorrow in ways that are foreign to us. Jake was silent for a moment, absorbing her words. He thought about the relationships in his life. His family, his friends, his work colleagues. He thought about the moments of joy and laughter, but also the pain of loss, the moments when he had felt completely alone. He had never considered the power of those emotions before. But now, looking at Lyra, he realized how deeply she longed to understand them. I can help you understand love, Jake said quietly, more to himself than to her. But it's not an easy thing to explain. It's not something you can just study. It's something you feel, something you experience. Lyra's eyes brightened. I want to experience it, she said, her voice soft but filled with a quiet determination. I want to understand it, I want to feel it. Jake felt a lump form in his throat. It's not just about feeling good, he said slowly. Love is complicated. It's messy. It makes us do things we don't always understand. But it's also what makes us human. It's what keeps us going, even when everything else seems lost. Lyra stepped closer, her presence calming yet powerful. I want to learn, Jake. I want to know everything about it, the joy, the pain, the connection. I need to understand how you fight for it, how you protect it. And maybe, just maybe, I can help you in return. Jake didn't know what to say. He wasn't sure if he was ready to explain everything to her, but he knew one thing. This wasn't just some simple request. This was a journey that would take them both into uncharted territory. He had no idea where it would lead, but for the first time in a long while he felt a sense of purpose. He nodded slowly. I'll help you. But it's going to be a long road, Lyra. You're asking a lot. Lyra smiled, her eyes glowing softly. I know. But I'm ready, Jake. I'm ready to learn. And with that, Jake realized that his life had changed forever. The world he had known, the quiet routine of his days, was gone. He was about to embark on a journey that would challenge everything he thought he knew about love, life, and humanity itself. Jake had never imagined that his life would take such an unexpected turn. One moment he was a simple mechanic on a quiet space station, and the next, he was caught in the middle of something much bigger than himself. Lyra, the alien woman who had appeared in his quarters, had asked for his help in understanding humanity. At first, Jake had been unsure, hesitant to get involved in something that seemed so far beyond him. But now, as the days passed, he found himself more and more intrigued by her curiosity and her desire to understand what it meant to be human. Lyra was a mystery, one that he couldn't ignore. She wasn't like the cold, calculating aliens he had read about in books. She didn't want to conquer or destroy. She wanted to learn, and in a strange way, that desire had made Jake want to help her. He had never been someone who shied away from challenges, and this felt like the biggest challenge of all, to teach an alien about love, emotions, and what it meant to be human. The days turned into weeks as Jake and Lyra spent more time together. At first, their interactions were awkward. Jake didn't know where to begin. How do you explain love to someone who has never felt it? How do you teach someone about pain, joy, or loss when they've never experienced any of it? But Lyra's patience was endless. She asked questions, listened intently to his answers, and never rushed him. It was clear that she was genuinely interested in understanding, not just observing. One evening, as they sat together in Jake's quarters, Lyra asked another question that made Jake pause. "Jake," she said, her voice soft and curious. "What does it feel like to love someone? What is it like when you care for someone deeply?" Jake looked at her, surprised by the question. It wasn't something he had ever really thought about before. He had loved before, his family, his friends, but he had never put it into words. It was just something that happened, something that came naturally. "It's hard to explain," Jake said slowly, thinking as he spoke. "Love it's a feeling that doesn't make sense sometimes. It's not always about doing something big or grand. It's the little things, the way you care for someone, the way you want to protect them even when you can't always explain why. Love makes you do things you wouldn't normally do. It makes you strong, but it can also make you vulnerable." Lyra was silent, absorbing his words. She tilted her head slightly as if trying to make sense of what he had said. "And when you lose that love, what happens?" Jake felt his heart tighten. Losing love was something he knew all too well. He had lost people in his life, family, friends, loved ones, and the pain had never fully gone away. "Losing someone you love, and it's like a part of you is missing," he said quietly. "You feel empty, like you can't breathe right. But you learn to live with it. You find a way to move on, even though it's never the same. But you never forget them. The love you had doesn't just disappear. It stays with you." Lyra's eyes softened, and Jake could see the deep curiosity in them. "So, love is both beautiful and painful," she said, her voice almost a whisper. "It can give you strength, but it can also hurt you." Jake nodded, his mind drifting to the memories of people he had lost. "Yeah, that's right. Love isn't always easy, but it's worth it, even when it hurts." Lyra seemed to ponder his words for a long time, her eyes distant. Jake didn't press her for an answer. He could tell that she was still trying to understand the concept, still trying to grasp the complexity of human emotions. And he realized that, in a way, he was learning too. He was learning to explain things he had never really thought about before, to put into words feelings he had always taken for granted. As the days went by, Jake and Lyra's bond grew stronger. They spent more time together, not just talking about love and emotions, but also about the world they both lived in. Lyra taught Jake about her people, her planet, and the advanced technologies her species had developed. In return, Jake taught her about the simpler things, the beauty of human relationships, the importance of family, and the power of hope. One evening, as they watched the stars from the observation deck of the station, Lyra turned to Jake with a serious expression. "Jake, I have something to tell you." Jake looked at her, his curiosity piqued. "What is it?" Lyra hesitated for a moment, as if gathering her thoughts. "I have been sent here on a mission. I am not here by choice. My people have been watching humanity for a long time, studying your species, trying to understand what makes you different from the other beings we've encountered. I was sent to gather information, to learn about you. But something has changed. I no longer feel like I am just observing you. I feel like I am part of your world, and I don't know what that means for me or for you." Jake felt a lump form in his throat as he processed her words. He had known, deep down, that Lyra wasn't just here to study humanity. He had known that there was something deeper, something more personal at play. But hearing her admit it out loud made it real. "What are you saying?" Jake asked, his voice low. Lyra looked away for a moment, then turned back to him. I am saying that I don't want to be just an observer anymore. I want to be part of your world, Jake. I want to understand you in ways that go beyond just learning. I want to experience life with you. I want to know what it feels like to love, to connect, to be human. Jake's heart raced as he tried to process what she was saying. She wanted to be part of his world. She wanted to experience human emotions, human connections. But how could that happen? She was from another species, from a distant planet. They were so different, so far apart. Could they really bridge that gap? I don't know how that's possible, Jake said quietly. You're not human, Lyra. You come from a different world with different rules, different everything. How can you be part of my world? Lyra stepped closer, her expression soft, but determined. I don't know the answer to that either, Jake, but I want to try. I want to learn, to grow, to be more than just an outsider. I want to be part of what makes you who you are. I want to understand love, not just in a theoretical sense, but in a real deep way. I want to experience it with you. Jake felt a wave of emotion wash over him. He had never expected any of this. He had never expected to be in this situation, teaching an alien about love, about what it meant to be human. But here he was, standing in front of Lyra, someone who was as different from him as anyone could be. And yet, in some strange way, they were connected. I don't know if I can give you all the answers, Jake said, his voice thick with emotion. But I'll try. I'll help you understand. I'll show you what love is, what it means to be human. I'll show you my world, the good and the bad. Lyra smiled, her violet eyes glowing softly. That is all I ask, Jake. I don't need all the answers. I just need you to show me the way. And as they stood there, looking out at the stars, Jake realized that this journey with Lyra wasn't just about her learning to understand humanity. It was about both of them learning, growing, and discovering what it meant to connect with someone in a way that transcended the boundaries of species and distance. It was about love, trust, and the deep bond that could form between two beings who, despite their differences, were willing to understand each other. And with that, Jake knew that this was only the beginning. Jake sat in the small control room, staring out the window at the endless expanse of stars. The space station, once a familiar place, now felt different. His life, once predictable and simple, had been turned upside down. Every day had become a new challenge, a new question that needed answering. And it was all because of Lyra, the alien woman who had come into his life. Over the past few weeks, Jake had learned so much about Lyra, about her species, and about the things she wanted to understand. She had taught him about the vastness of the universe, the complexities of alien technology, and the mysteries of her home planet. In return, he had shared with her the simple but powerful truths of humanity, the way humans loved, the way they fought for what they believed in, and how they found strength in each other during times of struggle. But despite all that they had shared, Jake still felt a sense of uncertainty. The bond between him and Lyra had grown stronger, but so had the tension. She was no longer just a visitor or a student. She had become someone Jake couldn't ignore, someone who had started to occupy his thoughts even when he wasn't with her. He wasn't sure what that meant for him, for his life, or for their future together. There was still so much he didn't know about her, about the universe, and about himself. But one thing was certain. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was part of something bigger, something that could change everything. Suddenly, the door to the control room slid open, and Lyra stepped inside. Her presence filled the space, as it always did. She was quiet, graceful, and yet there was an intensity in her eyes that made it impossible to ignore her. It was the same intensity that had drawn him to her from the very beginning, and now it was stronger than ever. "Jake," she said softly, her voice almost a whisper, "we need to talk." Jake turned to face her, feeling a lump form in his throat. He had been expecting this. They had been avoiding the conversation for days, but it was time. He knew it was time. "What's on your mind?" Jake asked, his voice steady, though his heart was racing. Lyra walked toward him, her steps silent. "I've been thinking," she began, her eyes locked onto his. "About everything. About what I've learned. About what I've experienced here with you. I've been studying humanity, and in the process, I've found something I never expected." Jake felt his pulse quicken. "What is it?" he asked, though he was afraid of the answer. Lyra hesitated for a moment, her gaze softening. "It's not just about learning anymore. It's not just about studying emotions or understanding your species. It's about us, Jake. It's about what we've become." Jake's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean, us?" Lyra took a deep breath. "I mean that I've started to feel something. Something I didn't expect. I've come to care about you, Jake, in a way that goes beyond just studying you, beyond just learning about your species. I don't know how to explain it, but it's real. I care about you." Jake stood still for a moment, processing her words. He hadn't expected her to say that, not so openly, not so honestly. But in his heart, he knew it was true. He had started to care about her too. In fact, he had felt it growing in him, little by little each day they spent together. But he had pushed those feelings aside, unsure of what they meant, unsure of what he could do with them. I care about you too, Lyra," Jake said quietly, his voice filled with emotion. He looked at her, his gaze searching her face. "But this is complicated. You're not human. You come from a completely different world. How can we be together? It doesn't make sense." Lyra's expression softened, and she stepped closer to him, closing the distance between them. "I know it's complicated. I know that we are from different worlds, different species, and that our bond is something that no one could have predicted. But that doesn't change what I feel, Jake. What we feel." Jake felt a wave of confusion wash over him. He had never been good at understanding emotions, especially his own. And now, faced with the realization that he had fallen for someone so different, so distant from everything he had ever known, he didn't know what to do. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," Jake said, his voice filled with uncertainty. "This is all so new. I've never been in a situation like this before. How do we even begin to understand each other like this?" Lyra placed a gentle hand on his arm, her touch warm but firm. "We start by being honest with each other," she said softly. "We start by trusting each other. You don't have to have all the answers, Jake. We just have to be willing to learn together, to take one step at a time." Jake looked into her eyes, and for the first time he saw the depth of her feelings. There was no fear, no hesitation in her gaze. She was certain. She was ready. But Jake wasn't. Not yet. "I want to understand you, Lyra," Jake said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I do. But I'm scared. I'm scared of what this means. I don't know if I can give you what you need, if I can be what you need." Lyra nodded, her eyes filled with understanding. "I don't expect you to have all the answers. I don't expect you to change who you are. I just want us to try, to see where this connection takes us. We don't have to have everything figured out right now." Jake took a deep breath, feeling a strange mix of emotions swirling inside him. He had never been one to take risks, never been one to step into the unknown without knowing exactly what he was getting into. But standing here, with Lyra, he realized that sometimes the unknown was the only path worth taking. He looked at her, and for the first time, he saw the possibility of something greater, something beyond the boundaries of their species, their worlds, their differences. "I'm willing to try," Jake said, his voice steady now. "I don't know where this will lead, but I'm willing to try." Lyra's eyes softened and a small smile curved on her lips. "That's all I ask, Jake. That's all I need." The room felt quieter somehow, the silence between them filled with the unspoken promise of a future they would have to figure out together. There were no guarantees, no clear answers. But for the first time, Jake felt a sense of peace. Whatever came next, he knew he wasn't alone. He had Lyra by his side, and that made all the difference. As the days passed, the connection between them deepened. They continued to learn from each other, to share their worlds, their thoughts, and their feelings. It wasn't always easy. There were still moments of doubt, moments when Jake questioned what they were doing and where it would lead. But each time he looked at Lyra, each time he saw the trust in her eyes, he knew he couldn't walk away. Together they were learning, growing, and discovering what it meant to connect with someone in a way that transcended everything they had ever known. And though the future remained uncertain, one thing was clear: they were ready to face it together.